Hello, my name is Marianne McGrath. Today, I have the honor of interviewing artist Linda Vallejo. This interview is part of a series of interviews with past leaders of Women's Caucus for Art. Artist Linda Vallejo creates work that investigates contemporary cultural and political issues and visualizes what it means to be a person of color in the United States. Linda says that these works reflect what she calls her brown intellectual property, the experiences, knowledge, and feelings gathered over more than 4 decades of study of Latino, Chicano, and American Indigenous culture and communities. Linda's work has been included in more than 100 group exhibitions, 20 solo exhibitions, and can be found in the permanent collections of several museums. Linda is one of the recipients of the 2022 Women's Caucus for Art Lifetime Achievement Award. The award recognizes the contributions of women to the arts. It honors the recipient's work, their vision, and their commitment. Welcome, Linda, and thank you.
Hi. Oh,
I've been looking forward to our conversation today.
me too.
Okay. So let's just start from the beginning. Tell us about yourself. Where did you grow up and were you always creative?
Yes, my first experience of painting was at 4 in kindergarten. I was on my knees, finger painting on the floor along with a group of other students. We were doing Easter eggs. It was a very large sheet of paper with a drawing of an egg on it. And we had finger paints and no brushes, and we just got to use our hands. And the tactile experience of all the colors on my hands and putting it on the paper and the smell of the tempera. I think anyone who was a painter as a child remembers the smell of tempera. It was just so tactile and so uh, physical, and it had so many wonderful emotional and uh, experience. It was deeper than anything I had known, really on a personal level, my own personal expression. And I've always remembered that experience. I remember the room. I remember the kind of floor. I remember I can see the children in the room. It was really one of those kinds of experiences that stay with you for your life. I had a teacher in first grade that very fortunate to have a teacher who used literature to guide painters, and we would read a book, and then she had easels, individual easels standing at the back of the room with paints and brushes for us to create illustrations of the book that we had just read. When you think of a teacher as a parent or a grandparent or an aunt, when you think of a first grade classroom with easels at the back of it and an ability to become an illustrator and to use color and paint, and I loved it so much. I've always loved the arts, and I know that if I wasn't a painter, I'd probably be an actor or a vocalist or a musician or a novelist or a playwright, which is what I'd really like to become as a playwright when I grow up. I was born in Boyle Heights, one of the oldest neighborhoods in Los Angeles, in the Chinese hospital that has since been raised. Um, my father graduated from UCLA in 1951 and became a commissioned officer in the Air Force. So at 3 years of age, after living in East LA with my grandparents and my great grandparents, I had four great grandparents when I was 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I have a very strong sense of family and a very strong sense of history. We moved to Germany, and I lived in Germany from 3 until 5 years of age. Then we came back to the United States, and I lived all over the United States in several locations. Went to middle school in Montgomery, Alabama, high school and parts of college in Madrid, Spain, and then landed back in LA many moons ago now, many moons ago now, to get my MFA at Cal State University, Long Beach. So I've traveled a great deal. I've gotten to see some of the most beautiful museums in the world, certainly many cathedrals, ruins, all types of architectural sites, including much of Mesoamerica, a great deal of the United States. So all of these experiences, you can imagine as someone who loves culture and history and psychology and arts and all these things, it really feeds the soul and uh, gives one the information, the knowledge, the intellectual information and experiences to be able to create work over a lifetime.
Mhm. I can see that now that you tell me some of these things, I can really see that and how it informs your work.
I enjoy the blending of cultures to
Mhm.
create new culture, or to begin a discussion and a dialogue about the value of culture, of the politics of color and class, and now the politics of privilege.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, this kind of leads us into our next question, and that is, you've kind of alluded to this, but what motivates your work as an artist and as a feminist activist?
What motivates my work is a question. I ask a question, and from that, I have thoughts and ideas, and then I experiment to create object. For Make 'em All Mexican, as an example, I asked myself, what would happen if I made repurposed work, or made images from pre-produced objects from my cultural point of view? I wonder what that would look like,
Mhm.
was my question. It took me almost 5 years to find an answer to that question. So I asked specific questions about imagery. What if I painted like that? What if I produced like this? What would that look like? And then I began researching and studying and reading and writing in some cases. As a feminist activist, I can't really help that. It's not like I can even make a choice about whether I want to be that or not. I have to be that because that's what I am as a woman of color artist. There's no way out of it for me. Women have to struggle enough to be in the art world and in the art market, but to be a woman of color is to be something like in the bottom 1% in every case, in universities, in museums, and major collections. So I have to pretty much put my steps out there very strongly as a woman. I believe in women's internal strength, innate strength. I believe that it's possible to be a consummate professional, to have a really beautiful and important image that people look at and they don't really care. They go, "This has got to get out there. This has got to get out there, Linda. We want to show this," because the image has to be more important than anything. Um, I've been surrounded by feminists and women of color feminists, all kinds, every type of feminist. The word women feminists, my entire life, and of course, their company has meant a great deal to me. Their insights and their support more than anything. I think it's important to acknowledge that without each other's support, very few of us will get ahead. But I also believe that it's important for women to accept their strength and their abilities to move ahead from a professional point of view.
Mhm.
And it takes a certain amount of guts, a certain amount of tenacity.
So I'm
And
wondering, looking back in time and to when you were just starting out, um, how has your practice changed over time? Did you?
I believe people have asked me this question a lot. And when I was in graduate school, I was told, you can't be married with children and be an artist. And I said, you know, I probably shouted some explicative and told them to go paint. They needed practice. At the nonprofit, a world was growing in the late 70s. That's when I was taking leaps and bounds. I was told I shouldn't do that either.
Mhm.
Once again, I just said, oh, forget it. Go over there and paint. Just pay attention to your work. I'm going to do what I need to do.
Mhm.
And I'm very grateful that I chose to be a wife and mother. And it adds a level of poetry to one's life, a level of capacity for wisdom and understanding.
Mhm.
So I kind of broke all the silly rules that people make for what artists can and cannot do, and at the same time had a lot of high expectations. I'm the kind of artist that tends to work on multiple portfolios simultaneously. I certainly work on multiple ideas simultaneously.
Mhm.
Right now, my portfolios are all based around brown belongings, which is my conversation about the politics of color, class, and privilege. And
Mhm.
I've always worked on multiple portfolios of objects in multiple media,
Mhm.
where I would be painting, printmaking, and doing watercolors, specifically watercolors, where I'd be doing sculpture and printmaking and painting simultaneously.
Do you find that jumping between mediums, you have so many different ways that you have made work, um, repurposing work and altering the found object and that sort of thing, but you also have the printmaking and all the other mediums that you mentioned. Do you find that by traversing between different mediums, does working in one manner then reinvigorate you for when you return to another type of medium?
What happens for me is that when I have an idea, I have to decide what media will best exemplify that idea.
Mhm,
So the idea drives the media. So in this, I don't traverse between media just to say, oh, well, I feel like drawing now, or I feel like painting now, or something. The idea drives me.
mhm,
And if I come up with an idea that demands, I don't know, demands pencil on paper, and
mhm,
that's the only way, and that's actually happened. The idea is queen, if you'll allow that in this conversation. Idea is queen, and I must follow the idea and where the idea leads me.
mhm,
And I find that it's kind of like a musician, many musicians who spend their lives creating music play multiple instruments.
mhm. And that is a perfect connection to the another question I wanted to ask you was, what your practice has taught you, and you've kind of just spoken to that without being asked the question. But is there anything else you would want to add to answering that kind of question of what you've learned from your practice?
Um, uh, an artist must inherently be themselves. This is where the idea comes from. The great idea of the individual comes from the individual's ability to know themselves.
Mhm,
So, what my practice has taught me is who I am. I've learned who I am and how I function to be able to create the kinds of images that are inherent to my personality, to my intellectual capacity, spiritual capacity, physical capacity, mental capacity, emotional capacity.
mhm,
And so by doing this work, I learned about myself as a human being, as a woman, you know. And I think that my practice is a way of internalizing and externalizing what I'm capable of and how I think. The fact that I work on multiple levels in multiple arenas all simultaneously isn't something that I demand of myself. It just comes natural to me. That's how I
mhm,
work. So I've developed a practice that sort of follows along the lines of who I am as a human being. And I think that each artist must do the same for themselves.
mhm,
And I don't think one is better than another. They're just different, as every individual is different. But I think if you follow yourself, then you're going to find that object that is uniquely yours and hopefully unique in the entire vernacular of art itself, in the history of art itself. That's what we're looking for, is the unique object, the unique statement.
So, amongst all your unique objects,
Uh,
is there an artwork or a project that you're most proud of? And if you have one that you can call out, I guess it's kind of like asking you which child you love the most.
it is.
It's kind of a hard question, but
Exactly.
is there something, a project or an artwork that you feel really proud about
What I
or
would talk
proud of?
about in this case is what I call morphing.
Mm,
I'm most proud of morphing.
mhm,
And when I say morphing, I've talked about this in public before, and I actually have talked about it with my coaching clients, et cetera, et cetera. But how do you go from one portfolio to the next
mhm,
and not lose the thread of the past portfolio and actually move into another image, another formula into the next portfolio? How do you do that? I moved Make 'em All Mexican into the Brown Dot Project
mhm,
by adding data to my thought processes. And it took 5 years, basically 5 years, to go from Make 'em All Mexican, where I bought pricey antiques and painted them brown,
mhm,
into two-dimensional data pictographs, data-based paintings, where data is actually exemplified in the painting itself. It's like a new graph, a new pie chart.
mhm.
Now I've morphed it into three-dimensional data pieces. I have three-dimensional data pieces now, which I didn't know if it was possible, but I'm having a lot of fun doing that
Um,
by simply.
and then when I think of all of the bodies of work, and maybe now I'll be looking for those times of morphing and those transition periods of like where the idea is percolating. Um, but in all of that, I see that your work explores difficult issues, and it often incorporates altered imagery, objects from popular culture, as well as researched and embedded sociological data. And you do this to invite our dialogue to prompt change in the world, and to find, universal connections. And often there's humor. And I read of this next project, an opportunity to even eat chocolate sculpture.
Yes.
So over the decades, you know, what memorable responses have you had to your work?
Oh
You
God,
know,
tons,
tons.
tons
So
of
what
them.
stands out for you?
Oh, so many things stand out. It's the work invites visceral response. This particular portfolio of work invites it. I've always been the kind of person that would walk up to a painting and in my past portfolios and say, "So, what does it make you think of? So, how do you feel when you look at it? What's your response to the work?"
Mhm,
It's pretty obvious to know what I'm thinking when you look at my work, especially these days.
mhm,
So it's not so important to know what I think because that's what the painting is for. That's what the work is for to tell you what I think. It's more important to see what the viewer has to feels about the work and what it brings up. And of course, some people find this work hyper political, and they come from that point of view.
mm,
Some people find it hilarious, outrageously hilarious, and they just can't stop laughing. They think it's the funniest thing they ever saw.
mm,
And many people find it as portals to experiences and memories.
mhm.
And some people have cried. I'm told very intimate stories of family and um, personal experiences, good and bad. He stood up with his wife. They looked like they had just been to church. He had a suit and tie on. She had a really nice dress and heels. I mean, really conservative looking little couple, really nice,
Mhm.
all coiffed in the whole thing. And he stood up and putting his hand to his chest and sort of quivering a little bit, he said, "When I see this brown Superman," he was a Chicano, Mexican American. 66% of all Latinos in the United States are Mexican, so in California especially. He was shaking a little bit and he said, "This sculpture makes me think that I too could be the hero of my community."
Mm.
So I use humor because you have to get into these conversations any way that you can. And
Well,
I don't want to be preaching to people. I just want to say, "Oh, let's just talk about it. Let's just see."
no, I think that you offer an opportunity. It's the humor opens a door for some people that um, otherwise might be too scary for people. But these are conversations we need to have. And I think you've been painting the world the way it should be.
That's what many people have said.
You
And
know,
I
I
painted
think
the
it's
Greek
great.
gods that way too.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's funny because when I asked myself that question, if I was going to make work, repurposed work, work from pre-produced objects,
Mhm.
from my cultural point of view, what would that look like? I had no idea that this is where I would end
You're
up, and
ahead of your time.
so I didn't think it through. I'm going to make a socio-political or what I call now a socio-cultural statement.
Mhm,
This is my plan. I had no plan. My plan was, like I said, idea, and the conceptual idea for the work itself, and it became what it was going to become naturally. So my work always surprises me. I'm always shocked by my own work.
when we think about, all the women and our work, right? What are the specific spaces, whether they're academic or political or cultural, that you think is imperative for women to occupy to be agents of lasting change?
All of them, every last one of them. I wouldn't take one away. I'd probably add a few.
What would you add?
Oh, I don't know, engineers, architects,
Mhm,
poets, playwrights, right? Authors. I'd add dancers. I'd add musicians. I'd add all the arts.
mhm.
I'd add judges. I'd add lawyers. I'd add doctors. Put us everywhere because that's where we belong. Is everywhere. That's, women aren't given their just due, and I've seen it and I've wondered about it. I refuse to allow it to stop me from my own expectations. I simply
Mhm,
refuse. I don't pay a lot of attention to it because If I did, then I might feel dejected and unable to move ahead. I
Mhm.
wouldn't say that I ignore the troubles. I'm actively working to change things as a woman artist and as a woman professional. But it's a pretty big battle out there. I wish the best for all women, and I hope that what I do and how I act and how I present myself could be of help to any woman or all women in any way possible. That's what I hope for. It's my prayer as a
Mhm.
woman to be able to make a difference by my presence and by what I accomplish.
Well, then what would you like to impart to women artists today? And what do you hope future generations of women will achieve? And what should they know? What do you have to share so that we can all be, agents of change like you?
Yes, try, yes, work together as agents of change. It's very nice. Maybe that could be a portfolio. What would that look like? Agents
Mhm.
of change. Would it be a painting? Would it be a sculpture? Agents of change. It's nice. Um, well, the first thing I say to artists when I talk to them is to get rid of the old myths. It's very important and get rid of the old myths. I don't use the word sell yourself, and I don't use the words promote myself. I think those words were given to young people so that they would feel like WHORES when they're making their art and presenting it to the world, if you will. So I change it into outreach and sharing the work.
Mhm.
Share the work, outreach, reach out and share the work, which sounds much more pleasant and much more giving and much more a part of what an artist who is proud of their work should be doing is reaching out and sharing the work.
Mhm.
I suggest that every artist get a mentor, someone who has been through more of the ropes, that respects them, that they respect, that is somewhere where they want to be, and to develop a friendship of support with a mentor.
Mhm.
I suggest that artists get their ducks in a row and understand how the business really works rather than living on urban myth about how it works,
Mhm.
and get out there and reach out and share the work. Work hard on your ideas. Ideas queen. It means everything. It is absolutely everything. Don't ever be satisfied. Always work harder on the ideas themselves. Um, you know, be in the studio a lot.
Mhm.
Balance studio and art business equally.
Mhm.
Uh, get into calendar planning and
Mhm.
plan studio days, plan business days, plan family days, plan spa days. What was the second part of the question?
Well, even broader, what do you hope future generations will achieve?
Everything. I want them to achieve everything. I don't want them to have any limitations on what they believe they can achieve.
Mhm.
I don't believe that any individual should bite into anything like that. Oh, I'll never be able to do that. Oh, we'll never be able to accomplish that. Of course, you have realistic expectations, but you cannot hobble yourself with any sense of doubt or misgivings or falsity or misinformation.
Mhm.
Knowing what's possible and knowing how to get past what people tell you is possible is really part of what it's all about.
We'll
And
get
you
there,
don't have
but
to.
what would you tell the younger women in the women who will be watching this, women in WCA, the younger generations, what do they need to know?
You mean the artists themselves,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
the
Well,
women who
there's
have
artists, there's
curated?
art historians, there's curators, we're women working in the arts. If there were three things they should know to be able to have this, you have such focus and drive. What do they need to know to
To
how
get
can they
that?
get there? Yeah,
How do they get that?
yeah.
You basically take it and own it. It's yours. I give everyone permission to have it all. Don't let anyone stop you. It's fine. If you need advice, ask somebody who really knows. Don't make it up. Don't pretend like you know. Ask
Mhm,
someone who's done it. So
mhm,
I see that you did this. How did you make that happen? You know, some artists are very generous about these things, and some artists are not. So you have to know, if you ask somebody who's not generous, that's just them. It's not you,
mhm,
right? You just have to make sure that you ask the generous person who's willing to say, well, yeah, there's certain steps that I take about that. First, you do this, then you do that, then you do this, and then you do that. It's really not rocket science. It's about research.
Hmm.
The art world, it's not regulated to my great chagrin. Um, so that every experience is different because every curator, every writer, every interviewee or interviewer, every exhibition, every administrator is going to be slightly different and
Yeah.
conduct their businesses differently, actually.
Hmm.
And so you have to kind of be ready for the boat ride. Sometimes it'll be rocky, sometimes it'll be smooth. You'll always be oaring. You'll always be you're the power that keeps it going.
Yeah.
And just to have a very good attitude about that. Don't allow the ups and downs of the art world to deter you from your product and your statement, or to deter you from your own sense of self. Don't
Hmm.
let it. It does not own you. It runs on its own. I think very young women, I would say, everybody's sort of unsure in their 20s, accept that. It's a natural part of growing up. It's
Hmm.
really not an easy way to get out of it. I mean, I knew who I was when I was 4 years old.
By saying, you knew you were an artist.
Yes, absolutely. I knew I was an artist when I was a small child. I mean, I was always the reason why I became a painter was because I didn't the world, the art world was male dominated even worse then. And in rock and roll, as an example, women were used and abused pretty badly. And I looked at it and said, I won't survive over there. I love to sing. It's one of those hardships of my life that I had to give it up.
Hmm.
But I looked at it and I said, oh my God, I won't survive over there. I won't make it. But I said, if I'm a painter, then I could get married, I could have kids. I don't need a band, I don't need a producer, I don't need a theater, I don't need an agent. All I need is a brush and some paint and I could continue my life. And so I
Hmm.
chose the solitary arts. And I
Hmm.
would have been a writer. If I would have known better, I think I would have become a writer because then you don't even need to box sculpture.
Well, there's still time, Linda. You start writing
You
too.
don't have stuff that you have to put in a storage unit. I could have just
Yeah.
wrote manuscript.
It's all on your computer. You just need the power.
I hope
But
that I've divulged something of some help for young women. I hope that my presence would help them. I really encourage them to look for other women and men.
well, did you find that? Did you find that in WCA? As a member, did you find that sense of community in WCA?
Yes, I've found many friends and colleagues that I've kept over decades.
Hmm.
And the WCA has always invited me to be in exhibitions and to be a part of their programming. Um, Anna Zolde, Sandra Mueller, Savan Gear have invited me and been involved in several things. So I've been involved because of their help. I've been involved in many things.
Hmm.
Uh, Dr. Betty Ann Brown was a part of WCA during my formative years with the Women's Building, and she introduced me to several other women as well. It's always
Hmm.
good to have camaraderie and to have support and to have care. And women's groups are very important, but I would add another component to the WCA in terms of professional development for artists. That's what I would add to their
Hmm.
profile, and that's what I would add to every college or university profile is professional development workshops and courses and classes for artists.
For you, thinking about, you are so in touch with the what you need to do to make your work and share it with the world. What is your dream project?
My
Or are
dream
you
project.
already living your dream?
Oh, I am living my dream, but my dream project is to be producing at 95. That's my dream project. My dream project is to still be an artist at 95 years of age. That's my dream. I want to
Hmm.
be like Betty Czar. She's my goddess. I would love
Hmm.
to be like Betty Czar. I like to be producing and presenting in my 90s.
Hmm.
That's my dream project. And that's what I have gifted myself
Hmm.
just this year to allow myself to imagine and to dream that I still have 25 years left in my career and that I could be productive and create meaningful imagery. This is my this is my real goal in life is to live until the last few moments of my life as an artist. That would
That's
be
a
really
wonderful vision. I love that. um, and then finally, I was going to ask you, you've given us so many wonderful so much wonderful advice today,
Oh,
and
thank you.
so many inspiring words, and encouragement. What's the best piece of advice you've been given? I always like to ask successful women that, what was the best piece of advice you've been given?
I wouldn't say that it was a piece of advice. I would say that it's more of the faith that people have had in me,
Hmm.
in my life, that they've allowed me to be myself. There's been a series of individuals, many, I couldn't count them here today, who have just said, just go for it, Linda. You know what you're doing. You know what you just go for it. You know what you're doing." And I've had a great deal of it's been wonderful to live a life like that where people have that kind of confidence in you,
Hmm.
that people have that kind of faith in you. I hold myself to a pretty high standard, and people
Hmm.
know that about me. And so they know that I'm not going to be abusive, that I'm
Hmm.
not going to abuse my authority or my freedom, but rather just use it for myself to be a creative being,
Hmm.
to allow myself that. Oh God, what a way to live. It's a great thing to live. It's fabulous. Again, I'm given a lot of latitude, a great deal of latitude by my mother and my father,
Hmm.
a great deal of latitude by my husband and my sons,
Hmm.
a great deal of latitude from the professionals that I've worked with and the women who have been a part of my life and a part of my career and have been supportive of me, from the Women's Building and the WCA and all the curators and historians and everyone who's believed. So it isn't really a piece of advice. It's more the support and the trust that I've
Yeah.
received. And that's a
What
piece
a
of advice
gift.
that I
What a gift to have that confidence that has been given to you, the confidence, the trust, the support. Um, no wonder. That's all I can
well,
say is
that's
like,
what I would say to young women then. I would say as a piece of advice, then I would say that uh, 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 grow closer to people who show you respect, that honor you, that honor your image and honor your vision, that honor your intelligence, that honor your body,
mhm,
that honor your spirit. And stay away, pull away from people who are unkind to you in word and action.
yeah,
And you'll be surprised. It will shock you, like my image surprises me. The relationships that you build will surprise you as well because you'll go, "Oh, gee, I never thought that would have worked out." But go lean in that direction, and you'll find the support that you need, rather than what fighting a system, spending time fighting a system. I don't do that. I don't fight the system. It's not worth it. It's an impossibility, actually. I
mhm.
sort of find cracks in the wall of a system, so get squeezed through.
Yeah, that's great. Gosh. So what's ahead? Is there anything else you want to share with us? I know you have exhibitions coming up. You have a lot going on.
Yeah, I have a show, as I said, at the University of British Columbia at the Museum of Anthropology there. It's really fun. Jill Baird and their exhibition designer and their exhibition team. They're so much fun. They're going to build me a polka dot room and put a brown polka dot room and
Oh
put
my
my stuff inside of it. I'm being considered for a series of exhibitions in other museum locations that I can't disclose just yet. I'm also going to be in Austin, Texas. I'm going to be in New Mexico at the Hispanic Cultural Center in New Mexico. I'm going to be also at the Knockdown Center in New York this coming year, which I'm very excited about with the Datos Sagrados data pieces.
God.
I'm always involved in some kind of special project like this interview today, or some kind of a panel, or some kind of a publication. I'm involved with Sherry Galkey and her upcoming documentary. Um, there's always a lot going on, all of
Mhm.
these opportunities. So there's always a lot going on. My schedule is very busy, and I love it. It is integral and an integral part of true satisfaction within the context of living as an artist is
Yeah.
to not only produce the object, to envision the object, to experiment and to create it, but also to share it, to be able
Yeah.
to share it and then have great conversations with people
Yeah.
about your experiences and about what the work is really about.
Well, that's what we did today.
Yeah,
And thank you. I so appreciate your sharing your life and your work and your vision with me and our community today. And I am really inspired. I feel like you are one of these good people you talk about to be near and to follow and listen to in my own career. So thank you.
thank you, Marianne. It's really been a pleasure. I've enjoyed our conversations on camera and off. And it's always a joy, especially around the idea of inspiring women and inspiring young women to imagine themselves any place they choose to be with confidence and care. You know, all of the great things that women can do. That's what
Yes.
we'll tip our glasses to that today.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
Thank you.
my pleasure.